power motion picnic hour, sometimes with special guests. Say your name, special guest.
My running partner, Lenny.
This is the power motion picnic hour. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of the Power Motion Picnic Hour. As always, I'm your host, Dave, and as always, with me is your other host,
Trevor.
Hey, Trevor, what's going on? How are you?
I really don't think I could be too much better, Dave.
Whoa.
Yeah. Here on pod, just dreaming big dreams, celebrating small victories,
Nice.
Yeah, it's great.
And it was beautiful out today, where I live. How about it was like 80 degrees? How about by you?
Yes, it was unseasonably nice, in a warm way.
And it was so warm that I decided to go run inside on the treadmill because it was it was too warm. I didn't want to deal with the heat. I haven't had to think about that in a while.
Yeah, it's what used to be referred to as the old Indian summer.
That's right. Now I don't know what we call it.
I'm not sure. But the concept is there. Yeah, it was quite warm.
Yeah, the Cleveland Guardians summer that was today was very nice, and it actually probably would have been good to run, although I don't regret my running on the treadmill, because I went outside and kicked the soccer ball around a little bit after that, and I was sweating like crazy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I was out just walking around the neighborhood in jeans and a t-shirt, and I felt quite hot after a while.
I dug up the shorts, the non-running shorts.
Same.
Yeah. Put them on, walked around.
I'm still wearing them now.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So maybe we could pick up a little bit. So just on last week. So we had just a great chat with Jesse. So cool to hear from him. I loved, he's clearly an accomplished runner in many ways. I mean, you can define accomplished in, for yourself, but, he's fast. He's run marathons. He's, he runs quite consistently. He puts up lots of miles, like all that, lots of time. And, but like he just dove right into like a series of mishaps, like running mishaps, which I just loved.
Which that's what we like talking about the most. And even though I think Jesse was faster than both of us, he seemed to enjoy talking about things going horribly wrong in exactly the same way that we do. So that was a delight.
It finally gave me some closure to the last race performance. I felt like, okay, well, yeah, my hit rate's just about the same as Jesse's. I gotta be doing something right. I've had one good race.
It's one of the
handful.
It's one of the great universals about running, whether it's Kipchoge missing that last water bottle in Boston, or Jesse bleeding uncontrollably from the face because he couldn't find a headband before. I can't remember which run that was, but one of his runs on tour. Or you or I bonking on what should be a relatively easy run.
Yeah, the combination of poor planning and poor training just coinciding in a moment of bonk. But so shortly after the episode, Jesse hit up the mailbag to let us know, and he had actually mentioned this, but I think the problem was we had talked to him, sort of first reached out maybe like August or something, sort of, a month and a half or so ago. He was totally up for the podcast, but he was about to go on tour with Beth Orton, which he mentioned. But he said, and so we had reached out because like sort of knew he was a runner, love his music. It was a nice convergence of what we talk about here. But he also sort of shared at the time, like, yeah, and I'm also doing this album, a Pneumatic Tubes album, his sort of like solo stuff, that's going to be sort of based on and inspired by the 70s running boom.
Which we're very inspired by, I think, at least I am fashion wise.
I mean, yeah, I feel like in some ways the whole podcast, but at the very least, the last episode, Lost in Sheffield, it was all sort of like leading up to this moment where And I feel like he made sort of an allusion to it early in the episode, like, oh, we'll get to that, like sort of running and music sort of being connected, but
we never got to it.
We never got to the punchline. So I think I wanted to introduce a new segment. Oops, we just forgot again. And this time with our special guest, we collectively forgot to mention Jesse's upcoming, soon to be released 70s running boom inspired album under Pneumatic Tubes. So
what's the segment called again?
Yeah, it's going to be called Oops, we just forgot again.
I can't wait to find out if Oops, we just forgot again has a theme song or not.
That'd be cool. I mean, we welcome any opportunity to write a new theme song.
We'll find out during editing, I suppose, or I'll find out during editing, and you'll find out during final episode QC.
Yeah, QC right before release. Yeah. So I mean, yeah, couldn't be more excited about that. We had talked about maybe even writing somehow 70s running inspired songs as well. I feel like there's more songs to be released from the Power Motion Picnic Hour, but maybe we just gotta like find the right entry point. But
yeah.
But yeah, so and I guess I mean, I guess we'll get to this, but Jesse also was prepared to talk about Song of the Week, the sort of much referenced, I think it's been going for a few weeks now.
Yeah.
It was prepared, but then we just forgot to talk about it as well.
But he did listen to it, you're saying?
He did. Yeah,
oh, great.
I guess when we get to that, I can share his comments.
I can't wait to get to that. That's good, and I can't wait to hear more about the new upcoming Pneumatic Tubes album. Or maybe we don't know anything else about it, but we can plug it here, and we can say follow Pneumatic Tubes on Spotify. There we go.
Yeah, absolutely.
Do that.
Do that, and we'll publicize once it comes out. I mean, I see no way that it could be anything other than amazing.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
Knowing everything we know about the circumstances, yeah, it's going to be good. So, and I guess there was a lot of cool overlap with Alejandro, with the Denton sort of keyboardist scene. I feel like we identified a few sort of common threads other than just running and music, but
it's not a lot of podcast episodes that are as in depth where they'll discuss 3 keyboard players from Denton, Texas. But
right.
That's how deep we go into topics. That's
the best 3. But there is a Denton music podcast out there somewhere, like very much in the mold of the Power Motion Picnic Hour, sort of the way we fit relative to running podcasts. I feel like there's a podcast out there that's talking about like the 4th and 5th best.
Yeah, they go
from Denton and are like, oh, you can listen to other podcasts if you want to hear about Scott and Jesse and
the other guy,
Evan, maybe.
Nice guy. Hey, that feels real. All sorts of running podcasts touch on that top tier of Denton keyboard players. But if you really want to get the deep insider info, you have to go to a Denton keyboard themed podcast.
Yeah, they're talking about like the sort of neighborhoodization of the Denton stoner rock scene.
Yeah, exactly. It's a level of specificity in music genres that listener Dan could only dream about.
Yeah, like, West Southwest Denton produces like a very specific brand in the, sort of borrowing more heavily from sort of 13th floor elevators influence than you can find, a bit further north.
Speaking of listener Dan, this might be a bit of a jumping ahead to a mailbag entry. Although but Jesse hit up the mailbag, so I guess we're just doing mailbag sprinkled throughout the episode today. I think that's That's a new segment called "This Segment Never Ends." We just keep going back to it for the entire episode.
We actually had nothing to talk about, so we'll just dip into the mailbag occasionally
as we think of things. And listener Dan wrote in that he was a little behind on his listening and finally caught up, and just this past week he learned that he won the running division of the community mile because he finally got, I think he's current now, according to his entry into the mailbag, but he was excited to find out he won the running division, which is one of the most competitive divisions from this past summer's community mile event.
Yeah. I mean, I love, there's just a complete warping of time and space, and here on the pod. And I just love the fact that we're now a month and a half, I don't know, several, certainly many weeks past the actual community mile, and our winner, listener Dan from Vermont in the running division is just hearing the news now.
And with we talk about current events a lot, and by current events I mean runs we went on in the past 7 days, and music we listened to while running.
Yeah, that we talk about and then release several days after that.
But with our our media and marketing strategy of the kind of slow build, eventual viral explosion that we're going for with this podcast, most of these episodes will be listened to not anywhere near when they were recorded.
That's true. Yeah. No, time has never really mattered to us.
No. And it kind of reminds me of there was a sketch on Mr. Show with Bob and David from the 90s. Remember that show? And they did it was a pre-taped live call-in show. and people would always call in to the show, but they'd be watching an episode about a different topic than he was currently recording. And so so David Cross would always get very angry at the callers for calling in about the wrong topic. So that's we're doing something kind of like that, but we're not angry because we're doing it on purpose.
Right. Yeah. No, it's part of it in some way. So I don't know. We've got a few topics. I mean, we can't be too sort of loose and brazen with the time as much as we cast aspersions at it.
So once we get through our weekly debate about the best seasons, let's move on to those topics.
What do you think? Why don't we jump into Song of the Week?
Let's do it. That's
All
big.
right.
We haven't had one in 2 or 3 weeks, probably.
Two or 3 weeks. So
it's a long time.
Yeah. It kind of pairs nicely with our "Oops, we just forgot again" segment, because it's sort of part and parcel. So this week's, as well as the last several weeks, Song of the Week, as listeners know, we pre-announced it for the first time, is a song called "Beautiful Blue Sky" by the band Off.
Sam, what is that sensation? What is that sensation? The light coming down over your shoulders.
Yeah, this song is like 7.5 minutes long.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it did have kind of a similar beat to a lot of the songs that we make Song of the Week.
Yeah.
And this band reminded me, I'd never heard them before. They reminded me of someone else, and I couldn't put my finger on who it was.
I mean, do you have a thought? I have a thought. And
tell me.
I have a reason for choosing them, which is the Feelies.
Oh. That's not really what I thought of, but okay. Yeah.
That's not what you're thinking of. I can see there's several directions depending on which sort of part of the 7.5 minute long song
there's a lot
you're referencing. But yeah, I would have loved to do a few, like when we first started talking about the Song of the Week segment, even before we had like parameters, which were like, we wanted to do sort of current artists, make sure that it was, we were sort of promoting things that were, sort of still going. And Ott, by the way, is no longer in existence, but I think 3 out of 4 members are now in the band called Cola.
Okay.
Which is on the your Strides for Speed playlist, I believe. There's a Cola song, maybe the closer.
So I have listened to them.
Yes, at least them in terms of current artists fitting in the Song of the Week sort of parameters. But had it not been for those parameters early on, I was thinking one of the first songs I would have done is Forces at Work by the Feelies, which is an amazing running song, except for it takes 1.5 minutes literally to make any noise at all. Yeah. There's like a lot of silence and then like a very, very slow fade in.
That's how it feels when you're running. The second you start, you're like, oh, what am I doing out here? Like this.
Yeah, I think it could be a really great like first song on a running playlist. And it's like you start, you're running, and you're actually not going to get any music for a good like minute or so.
But it kicks in right as you start to settle into a groove.
Yeah. And so I don't know, at the right point you can maybe edit in some of that. But anyway, so I would have done Forces at Work. Couldn't due to the rules that we've set, strict rules. So Beautiful Blue Sky was a song I was listening to and thought it sort of fit the similar sort of like vibe and aesthetic that sort of feeling and that I got from the Feelies.
That's cool. I gotta say, this song didn't run for me. Like I ran to it a bunch of times and it didn't work. It just wasn't a satisfying experience. And I was actually I was on the treadmill today, as I mentioned, and I was about to throw it back on, and I was like, no,
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 you'd heard enough.
yeah. There's something about, I can't remember. There was a line I was going to mention that he says. There's a bunch of lines he says repetitively at
Yes.
different at points in the song, and one of them, what does he say? He says like "beautiful day today" or something over and over.
Yes. Yeah, he says it several times, I think, in a
And
row.
as I kind of interpreted that, he's kind of like mocking people having like inane small talk conversations, right? And people interacting with each other like ants
Yeah.
bumping into each other.
Yeah.
Um, and so I guess in a sense, I thought that tone that he took, mocking people's like, I don't know, just like it went to me kind of counter to the idea of a run where you go out on a long run and you just it is first of all it was a beautiful day today,
Yeah.
and maybe often is when you're running, and you're just when you're running on a good run, you just kind of you actually are kind of enjoying that, and so that kind of simple truth is not a negative thing. And he was kind of singing it as a negative thing. And I know he wasn't talking about running. He was talking about like people not being genuine with each other and just like go it right. I think, and interacting and just like
Hmm.
having these inauthentic experiences. But to me, that it didn't pair with running because I was out there having the purest experience and the actual beautiful day today.
Interesting. Very interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I can definitely see that. And I think you're probably right. And it's sort of like, I don't know. I mean, David Byrne can kind of pull that off a little bit, sort of
Yeah.
the subversive like mocking of like normalcy, but I didn't yeah, I didn't pick that up quite as much. Now that you say it, I mean, yeah, I can absolutely see that.
It kind of just like, yeah, well, and so it kind of it just kind of his tone annoyed me because I was on a very different wavelength, like vibe wise. Listening to it, I was very happy and enjoying my run, and then he seemed to be mocking everything he can just see, and he was just very snarky, you know.
Interesting.
And so
Yeah.
I was much more, feeling like the Buddha at that moment at that moment when he came in and just started being a smarmy prick.
Yeah.
So like
Fuck that song. Fuck
well,
Hot.
yeah, the timing was bad, and so like I'm not saying I didn't like the song or anything, but I am saying it didn't run for me.
It's okay. No, I mean, some of the songs, if we wanted to just do exclusively like songs that run, you know, we could pick quite a few of those. It's sort of like meant to sort of push the envelope. This was probably
True.
the longest song of the week. Yeah, it definitely has like a little bit of that sort of like sad core kind of, you know, tone
Yeah.
to it a little bit. I think, see, the funny thing is I listen to it much more literally, and I think I even sort of like know there's some mocking there, but with the like the repetitive, I feel like if there's any sort of like point where the song releases a bit, it's when he repetitively says yes.
Oh,
um
that's the catharsis, maybe.
maybe yes.
That's nice. There was a lot of
But
repetition. I didn't go back and listen for what more of the lines were.
no, but you listen much more to the lyrics and the delivery. Those seem to be what you focus on. I was focused much more on sort of just the repetitive rhythmic, you
Mm,
know, yeah, sort of like that aspect of it. But the funny thing is I did listen to that and then the Feelies, like especially the instrumental parts, which were the parts that I thought like were capturing it a little, you know, sort of more than the, you know, the singing parts.
yeah.
And the Feelies are just so much better.
Uh,
Like
well,
it was
maybe
a
we can
stark contrast.
maybe we can do a Feely song. Maybe we could bend the rules and do one of those in a couple months because whatever. There are no
Yeah,
rules.
there's no rules. I mean, when special guests come on, they bring whatever. We'll just play it as part of this episode. But
Okay, that makes more sense.
all right, so I mean, for me, the song runs. I probably wouldn't have chosen it, although I might choose a song that doesn't run. Just, I mean, we'll keep that potential out there.
It's almost as fun to talk about songs that don't run as songs that do.
Yeah,
And
I'm glad not every song runs for everyone.
that's my second one that didn't run for me of all the songs of the week.
Yep. But I think it seems like you liked it less than the first, which was a song you liked, just didn't run this.
That's right.
This
Yeah.
song, not so much.
Well, yeah. I mean, I don't. Yeah, I don't know. I'm only commenting on whether it ran or not. But the other song that didn't run, I did like.
You did
I'll
like.
comment on that. I'll say that. What was that? What was that? That was the Field Medic song.
Yeah, yeah.
It didn't
I will
run, but
say the
yeah.
the only other sort of validating part of Beautiful Blue Sky for me is I think just the sort of method of doing the repetitive thing. Um, I employed that at least once in a song I wrote. So it's a good way to sort of like it's a good way to sort of spread time and in a running context, it fits sort of like some of my other musical interests, like with the minimalism and stuff, where it's like, okay, yeah, you've got sort of one thing to say. Do you want to say it just,
Yeah.
succinctly in like a few seconds, or do you just want to like drag it? And so to me, it helps sort of like helps kind of like play with time a little bit during a run.
I like that. Now I know we opened this song up to listeners and asked them to write into the mailbag. Did you hear from any listeners? Did you get any mailbag entries?
Yeah, mailbag.
The ongoing segment of the mailbag.
Yeah, interweaving mailbag. So yeah, so Jesse wrote and said that he said, "Oh, I actually don't run. I don't listen to music while I run. Never have."
That's a great mailbag entry.
Yeah, which is awesome because especially because he sort of thinks of them as such a connected thing. Like he can't separate music and running, but they also don't go together like that.
I'm glad we followed up on that thought, because when he said that last episode, I know he runs on tour. I know he's a musician and a runner, and primarily, and but I thought he meant, yeah, he loves running to music. So it's good that we cleared that up, that he in fact has never run to music.
Well, he said it's like running is sort of his therapy, and if you're doing music for for a living, that's like it's a good sort of break from it, I guess.
That's true. I
We've had
do
a
love
number of special guests talk about the connection between running and mental health as well.
It's true that that's an ongoing theme, a segment that also never ends.
Never ends.
I do love running without music when as I've said it once an episode, when I'm running outside, I love running just with the sounds of nature.
Yeah, that's what I've been doing recently. Sort of just stopped running to music outside for the past couple weeks. It's been nice. No real reason, but you just got to do whatever you feel in the time, right?
Yeah.
But as far as the song, yeah. So I guess if you didn't get any mailbag, unfortunately, the only mailbag I got was from Jesse, which he said. So he said, yeah, no, he doesn't listen while running, but he can see how the song might run for some people.
That's a very diplomatic.
It's very diplomatic
entry into the mailbag. No, I didn't get anyone to write in to talk about their experience with the song. But you still feel free.
Probably for the best.
Well, yeah, listeners feel free to write in. I also think part of it is that we instructed them maybe to write in on random photos on other Instagram pages.
Oh, you're right.
So maybe some of our listeners took that to heart, and although I scoured Instagram for hours to try to find mailbag entries, maybe I missed one. There are a lot of pages.
It's possible. It's quite possible. On the heels of the community mile, we've sort of entered this realm of race directing. We're now race directors in addition to runners and podcasters. And so I was starting to think a little bit about some race concepts for next year.
Okay. 2024.
Yeah, 2024. And so we had talked about sort of recording, and we might still do this. And this could, this is all sort of very much sort of fluid right now, as they say. But we had talked about maybe reading some like Livy or just some other very long sort of monotonous thing, like not very well, not worrying about the mistakes, just like a straight through recording. You and I kind of just maybe trading wherever.
Yeah.
Whether that goes on Patreon or not, I don't know. But we like the idea is, and I actually found in some cases this has already been done, except for by like professionals. So I found this 22-hour, 39-minute long book, audiobook reading of
Okay.
The Decline and Fall of the Roman Empire, Volume 1.
That's a very popular topic currently.
Yeah, the Edward Gibbon, like, sort of like, some might call it like tedious recounting of Roman
Well,
history.
they had a good long run, so it
They
takes
did
a
a good
while
run.
to go through it all.
Yeah, meticulous. And so the idea is something along the lines of you've got that amount of time, 22 hours and 39 minutes. Whether you want to spend it listening to the book or not
Mm-hmm.
is up to you, but you need to clock sort of the most number of miles as one factor. Like you've got, sort of this window of time, do as many miles as you can. Possibly factor in elevation. I think that might be fair, but also sort of knowledge of Roman history into the mailbag, or maybe a quiz, but I feel like that doesn't work so well. I think just sort of like demonstrate a knowledge,
Yeah.
and however you'd like to do that, however you'd like to sort of demonstrate, you can, sort of the floor is yours, as they say.
What if anything did you retain?
Yeah.
Yeah, did anything stick?
Did anything stick?
How long is it again?
It's 22 hours 39 minutes.
All right, I'm into it. And you have to listen straight through.
Well, you don't have to. You can listen to whatever. You can do whatever you want with that time, but it's sort of recommended. You might do that book.
Yeah,
it does coincide nicely with the time. Bit of an ultra read. I don't think it's meant to. People never thought about that amount of time to just read straight through, but this is sort of like pushing the boundaries a bit.
Yeah, I like it. All right, so we'll do that event sometime in 2024.
Yeah,
and yeah, maybe January.
Yep, that sounds good.
Okay, mark it down, dear listener. January 26th.
26th.
I haven't looked at the calendar. Whatever is the closest to the weekend. It seems like a weekend activity.
We'll post some more info soon.
Okay, stay tuned. Yeah, stay tuned to the Pneumatic Tubes Spotify account that you've just followed for more information about the fall of the Roman Empire ultra marathon challenge.
Volume 1 ultra race.
Volume 1 is good. That means we could revisit this if and when it's a huge success.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I was thinking. Maybe like next year, it's just a mystery book that's like dropped day of, so people can't pre-read and start like beefing up their knowledge ahead of time. And it could be a topic that's quite obscure. It could be even us just reciting some new knowledge, or maybe just releasing our Patreon episodes at last.
Have you ever seen? Do you remember there was? I don't know when it was, like 20 years ago, Bernie Sanders, a popular runner and senator who mentioned on this podcast a lot, third place in the mile in New York City when he was in high school. About 20 years ago, Bernie Sanders did this famous, what's it called?
Podcast?
No, it's a thing called when you hold up proceedings in Congress, they can't filibuster. He did this epic filibuster that was like, he talked for like 8.5 hours.
Oh,
and there's a video of it. It's on YouTube, but eventually they published it as a book as well, his whole speech. And so maybe we'll just read the Bernie Sanders filibuster. Although I don't know if we need to read it since he is also recorded doing it.
That might, yeah. Well, I think it would be good if we read it.
Okay. Do we have to read it in a Bernie Sanders impression, or can we just read it?
No. I think we can just read it.
Okay.
It's a good one. Yeah, stuff like that is perfect.
That's a good length, 8.5 hours,
I think I gravitated towards Livy initially because it's literally just, there's like a lot of just recounting of day-to-day life. Somebody's like, ox like went missing and that kind of stuff. It's sort of what I imagine. I haven't actually read much,
but you're
probably snippets.
You're probably right. And then there's been a renewed interest in the topic, at least if the memosphere is any indication of that. People are
as we heard from the mailbag. We heard from a dear listener who said, actually previewed the idea with an exclusive listener who said, "Are you aware of the meme?"
And were we?
The answer was yes, but this was also a bit independent of that.
Okay.
Which I guess might be like falling in line with the meme to some extent.
Yeah, for some reason, it's something people are thinking about culturally. Maybe they're thinking about the parallels between the empire we live in.
Yeah.
And
Well,
what?
how many times do you think about running a day?
How many times do I think about running a day? I don't think I stop.
Yeah.
I think I just think about running a lot. Yeah.
Yeah. So,
As
you
you're
know,
as the woman you live with said, you're obsessed with running.
yeah. And podcasting about running,
Yeah.
directing running races,
You're very versatile.
versatile, quite,
You have a lot on your
uh,
plate.
thinking about whether songs run or not. Um,
Yeah.
but oh, so I one more mailbag
Let's
on
do
my
it.
end. All right. Okay. So I got from dear listener in North Carolina. This was an interesting medium. This was a Strava comment,
Nice.
which certainly welcome. That's mailbag. It was a response to a recent run. I had a decent week in running. I guess I'll say I was proud to just kind of like get back on track with consistency a little bit. Posted a run with a picture of my running partner Lenny, decked out in some like bright orange because they allow like bow hunting in certain areas, like sort of controlled license stuff like near us, and literally never. I might have seen somebody once sort of doing it, but anyway, you wear orange out of an abundance of caution. There's Lenny with his thing, and the comment was, Lenny looks fly AF,
Nice.
which is something the kids say, I believe.
Exactly.
I think it means very, very fly.
Yeah.
Um,
Flyissimo.
Flyissimo, which I really appreciated because it wasn't even actually a bandana. It was like this like sort of vest thing meant for humans that I just kind of like jerry rigged and just sort of like tied around his neck. But he looked fly AF.
Oh, that's good. I'm glad to hear it. And I'm glad to hear that Lenny took the proper precautions so nobody thinks that he's a deer.
Yeah,
A
yeah.
very small deer.
He might have come home with several ticks, but
Most likely, yeah.
nobody mistook him for a very tiny deer mouse.
Yeah. Oh, geez. Yeah. That he's got to be. That's how do you check a guy like him for ticks?
Well, he's got very short hair,
Oh, okay.
so it's not that bad actually.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
That reminds me, I want of a run I took this week that I wanted to
Oh,
share, not because the runs themselves had any similarities, just because I remembered that's a thing we do on this show sometimes, is talk about
sometimes.
sometimes when we're not talking about the seasons or songs we don't like, or inventing ultra marathons. We talk about runs we've actually done, and I took a few decent runs this week, and on Monday, so 6 days ago, I had to like run an errand and return some video equipment I'd rented over the weekend early Monday morning, and then early Monday afternoon I had to catch a train because I had a business trip, and I was figuring out my schedule, and I was like, I wanted to go for a run, but I didn't really feel like waking up crazy early on Monday, and I was like, I don't really have time for this run, and then I was like, wait a second, and I looked where the video equipment was, and I measured it on Google Maps, and it was like 6 miles from my house. So
Nice.
I just
It's
put
a
on
good
some,
distance. I
yeah,
like that distance.
put on some appropriate outdoor running clothes for the weather. It was pretty cold, and yeah, ran back. This was in
To just toss on the Mizunos.
threw on the Mizuno Wave Inspire 19s, ran up whatever street I was on in Park Slope, all the way to Flatbush Ave, then up over the Manhattan Bridge, through Chinatown and Soho, and right back home to the West Village.
We'll call it 10K.
Yeah, because of a few of the mistakes I must have made, it was probably an even 10K.
Even 10K.
Yeah.
It's I feel like there's a string of words in there, certainly bordering on, and and this also could have been mentioned at any point in there, and it would have made sense as well. But the bundle of hyacinths into tripping on a route statement from the last episode. I feel like there was something very similar in there about returning video equipment and
I'll see.
running through Brooklyn.
I'll see if I can pull something out during editing, and that could be another new segment of the show where we are out of context, accidental,
Like poetry or something.
found found podcast poetry or something.
Yeah, in the string of meaninglessness, we found meaning.
Yeah. Yeah,
Let's see.
it's the Higgs boson hiding in the middle of the podcast. It's the little bit of the divine sprinkled in.
Yeah, yeah. Did you know there's this account that it's an Instagram account that just posts frame by frame like images with no other context other than like which frame it is of the movie Mac and Me, which was like sort of an ET like ripoff that came out several years later. And they started this in like March of 2020, and they advertise it as like free online version of like Mac and Me the movie.
So they do it in order, one frame a day.
One frame, it's not even a day. So they do like one frame every once in a while.
What's
like,
the rush?
Like maybe there's a pattern that some genius mathematician could detect, but like I see nothing to resemble a pattern. And occasionally they'll just drop a frame, and they're literally on like, I don't know, they're just past like the title like sort of credits, and like
have we met Mac yet?
Like they're probably like several hundred. Yeah, I think there's Mac, but I think they're like a few hundred frames into this movie.
Why weren't there more
like 3 years later
ET ripoffs? I feel like I could make a hell of a low budget, super low budget ET ripoff.
I don't know, where does like Alf fit into that French word?
Yeah, into the general friend, the oeuvre, the friendly alien pandemonium, is that what it is? No, anyway, that wave of the 80s where all sorts of friendly aliens on TV and film.
Yeah, that's not even getting into like Casper and sort of like, you know, that aspect either.
It seems related. Casper the friendly ghost.
It's adjacent. Yeah,
it's similar.
Adjacent. Well, yeah. So I mean, I guess I was thinking this episode it's kind of just a throwback. We didn't really have much to talk about at all. It feels like we talked about so much, yet nothing at all.
Yeah, exactly. We warmed up, and then there was no climax.
Yeah,
there was no kick at the end.
Sort of like early second wave Power Motion Picnic Hour after the college years, when we just sort of decided to start recording us talking again.
It's like in Twin Peaks, a television show from the early 90s we talk about a lot. When like
we base our season
we're probably getting
around that. Yeah,
I don't know what episode we're on, but we got to be getting close to the end of season 2. But there was a funny part of Twin Peaks where after you find out, you know, who killed Laura Palmer, which was the original, you know, premise of the show. It was a whodunit, and I won't give any spoiler alerts for any listeners who haven't seen it. But they eventually like did like kind of relaunch a second plot, but there's like a few episodes after you find out who killed Laura, and they deal with it all before like the second plot picks up, and it feels like, and there's just a bunch of episodes that are very about nothing. And they're kind of great, actually. I really like them.
Trying to like figure it out again. Yeah,
it's like early mid second season, and just got a great vibe. So this is kind of like that.
You need this type of episode to kind of you know, because we got some big things planned. I think you know, there's a lot more to come, but every once in a while it's just nice to kind of
filibuster for a little while.
Yeah,
you know, it's good enough for New York City third fastest runner Bernie Sanders. So
yeah, it's good enough for me.
We're winding down on time here. You know, next time we talk, maybe we'll talk about the New York Marathon, which is happening, I think, a week from today.
Yep. That sounds great. And maybe we'll do Song of the Week, maybe not. There might be a special guest, but otherwise, onward.
Your favorite of the few with a
special guest.
A very tiny deer mouse.
This is the Power Motion Picnic Hour.
Threw on the Mizuno Wave Inspire 19s, ran up whatever street I was on in Park Slope.